The New South Wales Government is set to pass the toughest laws in the country on the gig economy in a crackdown on unsafe practices by food delivery riders. All 10 recommendations in the joint Taskforce in the Food Delivery Rider Safety Report will be implemented following the deaths of 4 delivery riders late last year. Joining me now is New South Wales Minister for Better Regulation, Kevin Anderson. Mr Anderson, thanks so much for taking time out of your day today. We really have seen an explosion in the amount of delivery riders on our roads through the pandemic, haven't we?
We have, Kenny, and good afternoon, and it hasn't eased off at all. So what we've got to do is make sure that we get in front of that safety element that is a real problem for gig economy delivery food riders.
Part of this, the recommendations, is penalties for unsafe riding in traffic. Now, shouldn't that already be happening? Why do we need a new law for that?
So what's happened is that the gig economy exploded through COVID, and all of a sudden we saw lots of different people on lots of different modes of transport delivering food at all hours of the night, and there wasn't any rules or regulations around that. There's a compliance requirement under the Work Health and Safety Act for food delivery platforms anyway, to ensure they provide a safe environment for food delivery riders. So what we're saying now is that after an education campaign, after the task force that I set up in November following 4 deaths and numerous injuries and far too many near misses, we will now look at putting the blowtorch on the industry. Many of the food delivery platforms have upped the ante in terms of safety, but in my view, not enough. So we've got to bring some compliance in as that carrot and the stick to provide that safe environment for delivery riders.
So this will give police more powers? I mean, surely if they see someone riding in traffic in an unsafe way, they're going to pull them over anyway. So exactly what is giving them more powers in these new laws?
4 main components, Kenny. One is that the food delivery platforms will be required to deliver training to food delivery riders. They will also be required to give the riders PPE, so high-vis safety vests, and we've all seen them in and around Sydney and other areas where they're riding in dark clothing. Very difficult to see. They've got one hand on the handlebars, and the other one looking at a phone trying to find the address. Very difficult to see. So high-vis PPE training, as well as a unique registration number that person, the delivery rider, will have with them, so that when an inspector or a police officer pulls them up for breaking the law, or they're breaking road rules, they will be able to identify that delivery rider through that unique registration number, trace it back to the food platform, and then say, did you deliver the training and the PPE and the other requirements that are going to be part of the Work Health and Safety Act that we'll introduce in November.
And that unique identification number that is going to be issued to riders, exactly how is that going to be used, and how is that going to make them safer on the roads? And is it more likely going to be like a demerit system if they get caught out not wearing the proper clothing, the safety requirements, then they get demerit points and then eventually they'll not be able to deliver food anymore? Is that how that works?
Further consultation will be had with the industry over the next coming months. Now that we've got the new rules and regulations coming in, we want to be able to educate the industry, the gig economy, about the rules and regulations coming. We'll have further discussions with them. So, you don't need a license to ride a push bike. So when someone is delivering food on a push bike, how do you make them comply? How do you make them enforce the road rules? So once the training, if they are a gig economy worker, a food delivery rider, the food delivery platform, whichever that may be, will do that training, give them a unique number. That way they can be then tracked. So if a food delivery rider with a registration number 1234 gets picked up again and then gets picked up again, then there's an inherent problem. So we want to be able to bring in compliance to be able to improve the safety outcomes. So that further consultation will happen between now and November, and it's the education campaign as well as a compliance blitz to try to drive safety as the core message in food delivery riders.
Okay, Mr Anderson, there were protests held across the state today asking the government to do more to protect koalas from going extinct by 2050. Of course, we know about the Koala SEP. That was a big issue. It threatened to bring down the state government. Some changes were being made, but a part of the protest that today and what they were asking for is these codes which have been written, they're saying behind closed doors, they're not being made public, about amended land clearing and logging codes, and they're worried that the new codes will weaken rather than strengthen the current protections. What's going on with those codes? When are we going to know more about the koala protections that are coming through for the state government?
Significant work has been done in making sure that our koala habitat is not only protected, but it's enhanced. The new codes will look at particularly around developing on coastal areas. So those high developed areas, those areas that have been earmarked for that. We look at our farmers, we look at our conservationists. They are the best when it comes to making sure that we've got a very strong koala population. Our local land care coordinators right across New South Wales, and recently I was in Gunnedah and further west to ensure that we put koala corridors in to ensure that they could continue to move across. When it comes to koala protection, this government has a very, very strong record. So it's about making sure that development can occur where appropriate, but certainly when it comes to the environment, we believe that the koala habitat needs to be not only protected but enhanced.
So will these new codes that are currently being written, can you tell us that will it make it easier or harder for land clearing to take place?
It's the balance. Kenny, it's the balance. Let farmers do what they need to do, earn a living off their land. They're the best conservationists that we have. They want that land to be productive for them well into the future. And when you look at some of the environmental measures that farmers are putting in place now, they're not in the business of ruining their income for the next generation. So when it comes to getting the koala habitat as well as farming land, it's the balance and those codes, and it's not being done behind closed doors. It's being open, it's transparent with the Planning Minister and the New South Wales Nationals to make sure we get it right.
Minister for Better Regulation, Kevin Anderson, always good to chat. Thanks for joining us on Weekend Live today.
Thanks, Kenny.